Hello everyone. Today we're learning mציעא Daf Gimel. Before we start, I just want to mention that today is a Holocaust Day memorial. We have here a candle for all the people who died in the Holocaust. We have here a nice drawing from my sister that she drew many years ago of a boy in the Holocaust. And I just want to say, we know that we've been hated, the Jews, for many, many years. And in the days of Haman, it was because we're not too involved. In the day of the Nazis, it's because we're too involved. Nowadays, it's because we're protecting our land. We always have a good excuse. And as Jews, we know that it's whatever happens, they're going to hate us. And the only way to solve it is when we're united in between us and we love each other and we don't fight and argue about everything. That's the only way we're going to survive and be strong. That Hashem will be zoiche for the Gula Shlema B'Kroiva Mamish. So the Gemara says, Omar Rava, that's what we're holding. Shma mino mid Rav Oishia at last. We know from Rav Oishia three things. So what did Rav Oishia say? We had it earlier on, up on the page. We're going to recap. Reuven is owed by Shimon money. So he goes to Shimon, he says, Shimon, you owe me money, I want the money, I want to buy wheat. Shimon says, no problem. How much do I owe you? That sum? I'll give you wheat and that sum. So Reuven says, yeah, no problem. And Shimon says, I'll supply it to you later on during the year. Now the wheat goes up in price and Reuven comes to Shimon and says, I want my wheat because I want to take the wheat and sell it and I want to buy wine. So Shimon tells him, no problem. How much is the wheat worth now? It went up. I'll give you wine that value. And then the wine goes up in price, and Reuven comes to Shimon and tells him, I want the wine because I want to sell and buy oil. And Shimon says, I have oil, I'll supply oil for the price that's worth now, the wine that I owe you. Says Rabbi Shia, on all these cases, if Shimon, when they agreed on the wheat, on the wine, on the oil, has the supplies, no problem. If he doesn't have the supplies, it's a problem of ribis. So Rabbi says we could see from Rabbi Oishia three things. Shma mino, number one, the ma'amidin malve al gabi peris. V'lo yamrin v'lo yikisur abolo yodehu. First of all, we know that it's allowed. Reuven could come to Shimon and give him money for wheat, and Shimon is going to supply him. But here, Reuven's not giving the money. He's saying, you owe me money. And afilu ochi, we say that you're allowed to do, and we don't say, oh, because he's not giving the money, it's an issue. So that's number one. Not like we saw in the Bryce on Samach Beis on base. Number two, v'shmamino hu dieshloi. That's only mutter if Shimon has the supplies, the wheat, the wine, the oil. But if Shimon doesn't have the supplies, it's forbidden. V'shmamino, and third thing that we could see from Rabbi Oishia, isa del Rabbi Yanai, that we hold like Rabbi Yanai, the Omer Rabbi Yanai, mali ein, mali d'mein. That in the case, as we're going to see in a bit, is a machloikis. In a case where Reuven comes to Shimon and says, here, take 100 pounds and supply me wheat. So we said it's mutter if yotza ashaf, the price is fixed already. So now, when Reuven comes to Shimon and he takes the wheat, it's no problem during the year. But if when Reuven comes later to Shimon and says, I want my wheat, Shimon says, I don't have wheat now, I'll give you money, the value of the wheat it's worth now. So it's mutter, because Rabbi Yanai says, like you could give hein, you could give the wheat, you could give also the value of it, the money. And there's no problem. So from Oisha, we could see the same thing, because when he's changing the wheat onto wine, he's not giving him wheat, he's giving him wine. It's like money. It's changing it onto money, and afilu ochi, it's mutter. Says the Gemara, the Itma that we learned, Rav Oma Oisim Amona Bapiris, he allowed to give money to get Paris later on in the year and to get supply of Paris. But if he doesn't have the Paris later on, he's not allowed to give him money instead, because he's giving him, let's say, 100 pounds, and then he's receiving back 110 pounds. It looks more like ribis. Rav Yanai Oma, Mali Hein, like he's allowed to give the wheat. Mali Dmein, he could also give the money. That's a machloike. Said the Gemara Meisive, we have a kasha from the Brisa. Kulom, in the Brisa of a Brisa, it says, if he has mutter, he's allowed to give it, even though that he's changing a type of money from wheat to wine, it's like changing on to money. It's talking about when he agreed on the wheat, he did Mashiach on the wheat. So it's his wheat that went up in value. So now his wheat, he could sell it to him and get wine instead. No problem. Everyone will agree in that case. So the Gemara, if it's talking about where he did the kinyan, what's the chiddush? Obviously, it's his that went up in price. So the Gemara, it's talking about where he said in that corner of the warehouse, that wheat's going to be yours. And even though they didn't do Mashiach, it's good enough. Then it's considered that his wheat went up in value. And in such a case, Rav will be moida that it's mutter. But if you didn't miyachet keren zovis, then it's forbidden. V'shmuel homoni, who is this price of Rabbi Oishia? It's Rabbi Yehuda here. There's no kasha from there because Rabbi Yehuda who's mekel. The Rabbi Yehuda said, tzad echad b'ribis mutter. He allowed one side in ribis. What's one side in ribis? A case where ribis is if you take money or you take something extra, but it's not for sure that it's going to be extra. It might be extra, it might be not. Let's see what's the case. The Tanya, Aryeh, someone owed his friend the money, and the guy who owed the money told the Malve, listen, this field's going to be yours. If by a month from now I don't give you the fruit, I don't give you what I owe you, you could keep the field. So said the Bryce, if the one who's selling it, the loiva, is eating the peris in that month, no problem. Because if at the end of the month he pays him back the money to the malve, the malve never got anything extra. If he doesn't pay the money, only then the malve goes into the field, and then it's like he's paying off of the field, and it becomes his field with no ribis. If the loikech who's the malve is eating peris, also it's forbidden. Why? Because if he won't pay back the loan, very good. It says from now there's no ribis, but on the side that maybe he will pay him back the loan. If he will pay him back the loan, and then he's going to get back the loan, is going to get back the field. All that time, the peris that he ate, the malva, is extra to the loan. So it's tzad echad b'ribis is one option that you can come to ribis, so it's forbidden. And Rabbi Yehuda, peris, even though that the lekech is eating peris, is mutter. Omali Rabbi Yehuda, because here tzad echad b'ribis, even though that in one option it could come to ribis, if he pays back the loan, and in that time the malva was eating peris, so it's ribis because he got back the loan and he eats the peris. It's mutter tzad echad b'ribis mutter. Omali Rabbi Yehuda said to them, "Ma'aseh v'baitos ben zoinim." Well, the story of Baitos ben Zoinim she'asu sadei mechal pira beloza ben Aryeh veloikech oiche peris oyo. I have a place that Rabbi Loza was matter to do such a thing, even though that the loikech, the malva, was eating the peris. Amrloi, they told Rabbi Yehuda, Misham Raya, bring me a raya from that case. Moichel oichel peris oyo veloy loikech. Over there was a moichel was eating the peris, and not the loikech was eating the peris, and therefore there's no tzad of ribis, and therefore it was mutter. But if the moichel oichel peris, if the loikech was eating peris, it's a problem. So therefore, Shmuel says that this price of Rabbi Oishia, that said that it's mutter, it's only tzad echad b'ribis, because maybe the price won't go up, and therefore it's allowed. What's the difference between Rav Yehuda and Chachamim? Like we explained, when you have ribis, it might be ribis, it might not be. Rabbi Yehuda said it's mutter, and Tanakama holds it's also. Rava argued. Rava says for sure Rav Yehuda never said that tzad echad b'ribis mutter. If and for sure Rav Yehuda said that the loikech could eat peris, the malva could eat peris, but on the condition that the loiva pays back the loan before the end of the time where the field becomes his, and therefore the field goes back to the loiva. In that condition, the malva will have to give back all the peris that he's eaten in that time. So Rabbi Yehuda holds there's no problem. He gave back the peris. There's no ribis. And Tanakama holds at the end of the day he ate the peris already. He took already extra. That he's giving back doesn't help now, and that's why it's forbidden. But if you Rava, no one holds that tzad echad b'ribis is mutter. Says the Gemara, Omar Rava, Ashta do Omar Rav Yanai. Now that Rav Yanai said, Samach Gimel Omud Beis, Mali Hein, Umali Dmein Amrina, and that you could say when someone agreed on wheat for a certain price, when the market price went out already, and he gave him money for it, and then when it came time to give him the wheat, he could give him money instead. Mali dmein, mali hey nami amrina. Also in the opposite case, if at the beginning when he came to agree and he doesn't have money to give him, he doesn't have Paris. Sorry, the Lekech doesn't have Paris. If Reuven comes to Shimon and says, I want to buy off you wheat for the fixed price in the market, and he gives him money for it, even though that Shimon doesn't have the wheat, it's mutter for him to take the money and supply later on, because of that money he can buy Paris right now. He can buy the wheat and supply it later on, and even if it goes up in price later on, there's no issue. In the Chura, it's a Mishnah later on, and Rashi explains that from the Mishnah, if you want Shitta, it's a different chat, and therefore you don't have a right from the Mishnah, and therefore we need to say it's a Chiddush over here. Like we said, you're allowed to agree on the price of the market and give the money, even though that the seller doesn't have the produce now. But because he has the money that he's getting now, he could buy with that the produce in the market, and therefore it's mutter. We learned in the Bryce of Aryeh, it's only mutter if the seller has the wheat, the wine, the oil. Mutter, but if he doesn't have, also it's forbidden, and you're telling me that even if he doesn't have the produce, it's mutter. The big difference in the case of Aryeh, it all started from a loan. He took a loan, and now he wants the money back, and then he doesn't have the money to pay back, so he's giving him the wheat. So if he doesn't have the wheat, it's a problem, but it all started with a loan. We are talking about when I come with money to Shimon, and then it's okay if Shimon doesn't have the produce. But if it's with a loan, Shimon needs to have the produce. Rabbi Yosef, Damar Tavayu, they both say, my time Omer Rabbanon. What's Pshat Rabbanon said? Poiskim al Shasha Basashuk, Afal Pishain Lo, how are you allowed to give money to someone and agree on the price of the market, even though that the seller doesn't have the produce? The Omalei, the buyer tells the seller, Shkile Tuvosoch, Rashad Yachrizi, take your toiva that you're doing to me and throw it on the thorns, meaning you didn't do me any toiva. Maya, honestly, what did you gain? What did I gain by me giving you the money and you supplying me? If I wouldn't give you the money and the money was in my hands, I'd go to Hini Veshili, the marketplace, and I'd just buy it for the value now, and I'd keep it by me, and the price would go up. What did you make me gain by giving you the money? I didn't gain anything, because I had the money at the time, and I could have bought the fruit at the time for that price. Now that I went up in value, it would also go up by value by me. Adam has been a bina v'shila bezula for the cheap price like now. Omalei Abayler Rav Yosef Elo me'ato. This is a good svara. Mutter lilvo isor besor. It should be mutter to lend out a saw of chitin and get back a saw of chitin, and we know that it's forbidden because maybe the price is going to go up. And l'chora it should be mutter. Why? Mishum demotzi omalei, because l'chora the malva could tell the loiva shkila tivusach. Take your toiva that you're supplying me now a saw of what I've given you at the beginning. And throw it on the phones. If I'd keep the saw by me, would it get ruined in my warehouse? It wouldn't get ruined. It would stay good and I'd have it. So what did I gain by giving you a saw of chitin and now you're supplying me later on? It's exactly what I gave you. I could have kept it by me. And we know saw b'saw is forbidden. Over there by saw, he's lending him a saw and he's getting back a saw, and therefore we choishish that the price is going to go up. But here he's buying off him the saw, and when it starts with a sale, we're more lenient to bury this because it's not a loan. In our case, where he's giving him money and he says, I didn't gain anything because I could have gone to Ini Bishili and bought it myself for the price now. He's gaining, because if you'd go to Ini Bishili, you'd have to find a broker to find him the wheat, someone who's selling. So he's gaining that money. It's talking about where he gives the seller that extra bit that you normally pay for the broker. He gave him that extra. Rav Ashi Omar, no. Zuzi di inchi inu avdu safsirusa. When someone has money, that's his broker. People who have money, people go with them offering them deals. Oh, you have money, you want to spend, you want to buy a property, you want to buy wheat, what do you want to buy? Just tell me and I'll get it for you. So he wouldn't have to pay for the broker. He'd managed to find the wheat without a broker, therefore he's not saving him anything, any broker fees. Rabba v'Rav Yosef Damrit Havayu. Rabba and Rav Yosef both say, Ahai man, Yoiv Zuzui Atara Harifa. So there is a Yota Ashal that the market value went out, and we said that means when we know in the market a kilo of wheat costs this and this sum of money. But before the markets start, beginning of the season, when the people are still cutting the fields, and then they leave some of the produce for the aniyim because of peyo and other matonis l'aniyim. So the aniyim who don't collect a lot, they collect wherever they can, the peyo and etc., and then they sell it straight away before the markets get flooded for even a lower price then the markets are going to start, because they're desperate for the money, these poor people. So someone agreed with his friend before the proper value came out, the market price came out for wheat, and he agreed with him with the price of the zanim who sell for cheap. That's Tara Harifa, on the sharp value. So he has to show himself at the threshold where the guy who has the wheat is threshing his wheat. He has to show himself over there. Why does he have to go over there? Why does the buyer have to go to the seller's threshold? If to do a kinyan, going to threshold is not kinyan, you need to do meshicha. That should be chal mishapora because he gave money and it's chal mishapora by that. Even if he doesn't show himself over there, by giving over money is chal mishapora if someone backs out from the deal. So why do you need to go over there to the threshold? So the Gemara, really, it's kedei to mikabel mishapora. Normally the money does that. So the Gemara, man diov zuzi atar harifa, when someone gives for the low market value, he gives money, the beit straight loss if he gives 2 or 3 people the money and he says, I want it for the low value, and really he's going to only choose to do the deal with one of them or 2 of them, it doesn't mean that he's going to do the deal with all of them. If he goes to the threshold, so it's basically some chadaite, he means to say, I'm buying from you and I want this deal to go ahead, and therefore the moist I gave it early on make me shapara. If he doesn't go to the threshold, omalei, so the seller could tell the buyer, Amina, I said to myself, you probably found someone who gave you better fruit and you took it and you're not planning to take it from me, and therefore I never thought we have a deal. Now that you said that the whole reason why you have to go to the threshold is because smichus das that the deal is going ahead, it doesn't really have to go to the threshold. It's enough that he meets him in the market and tells him, oh, you know what, I gave you money for the lower price, I want to go ahead with that deal, and then there's smichus das, and straight away there's mishapara even without going to the threshold. The rule of ribis is kol agar notale, if he's getting money paid because he gave the money earlier, that means a loan, and he's getting interest because he gave the money now, he's getting more interest when he gets back the money later, also it's forbidden. A guy who gives money to the person who sells wax, the candles, the costly dalid bedalid, and the price is 4 for 1 zuz. That's a market price. And the seller tells the buyer, hey, I'll give you 5 for 1 coin. I'll give you a better value. So depends. Isnu gabei, if the seller has the item, these candles, the wax, sure, it's mutter. You're allowed to do it because you could sell for cheaper if you want. Lesnu gabei, but if he doesn't own it, also, it's forbidden. Says the Gemara Pshita, what's the chiddush? Obviously, if he has it, it's mutter because he could sell something for cheap, and if he doesn't have it, he's selling it lower than the market value because he's getting the money early. So that's ribis. Says the Gemara Lo Tzricha, the Isle Ashray B'Masa. It's talking about that the seller doesn't actually have it, but he has an agreement with people in town that they're going to supply him with this wax for the candles. So I might have thought, Kevin the Isla Shrai B'Masa, because he has already agreement with people in town to supply him, it's considered that it's like someone who says to his friend, I'm going to sell you, give me money now, and I'm going to give it to you for low value, and because I don't have the money now, I have the money in the safe. or my son's going to come with the money, so I need the money now, help me. So in such a case, because he already has it, it's mutter. So you might think here it's considered that he has it because he has an agreement with the people in town to supply him. Kamash Malon, the Chiddush is, since he didn't claim it yet, it's only a deal, but he didn't claim it, it's as if he doesn't have it, and therefore it's forbidden to do such a deal. Omar Rav Nachman, said Rav Nachman, someone who borrowed little coins, silver, copper coins, like pennies, from his friend, and he found that they agreed on a loan of a certain amount, and he found extra coins. If it looks like an amount that a person had a mistake, he has to give it back to him. If it looks like an amount that he doesn't have a mistake, and soon we can explain the amount, he could accept it as a matana that he extra added money in this loan because he wanted to give it to him as a present. How much is it considered that it's a mistake? And when do we say no, it's no mistake, it's a present? Meaning, the way they would count those days, and today many people also count the same, they'd count, let's say they had lots of coins or lots of, today nowadays notes, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. So that's one way of counting. The other way of counting was in fives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you say 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. And then, so if the guy gave him the wrong amount, and that amount splits up or into 5 or into 10, so it makes sense he had a mistake. Let's say he counted till 20, and then he does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Instead of saying 30, he said 20 again. So if it's 10 or 20 or 30 difference, it's probably a mistake. But if it's or 5 difference, it's also a mistake. But if it's in a number that's 1, 2, or 3, 4, or 6, 7, 8, or 9, that doesn't make sense, they had a mistake, it's probably a present. If the guy who lent me the money is a tough guy that never gives a present, so how can I assume that it's a present that he's giving me? He never gives presents. Maybe this guy stole a few once and he wants to give it to you back without letting you know. The Tanya, like we learned in the Brisa, someone who stole from his friend, and when he goes, he lends him money or he buys off him something, he gives him some extra money, the amount that he stole. It's called a good ashava. Says the Gemara, what happens if he's also a tough guy and also a guy that I've never done business with him? He's the first time in town, so it can't be he's giving me a present, and it can't be he's paying me back a gzela because we never had business before together. Maybe someone else locally stole from you. And he told this guy who came new into town, when this guy is going to borrow pennies from you, give him extra what I owe him. What I owe him, you add it on to him. So even though that this guy who I'm receiving the loan from never gives presents, and he also, I never had deals with him, maybe someone else asked him to give me extra what he owes me, and therefore I could receive it as a present. Shkoyach, today is 13 days for the Oima, that's a week and 6 days. Shkoyach.